Good morning, fellow travelers. Welcome to Prepare for Change in the Ascension Connection call. We're recording this today on January 15th, and I'm honored for us to have a guest speaker, Rosemary from Canada. Now, she's one of those people that caught my attention right away because she's obviously very young, but a very old soul, quite wise. And the picture behind her is one that she's created. She's very artistic and she brings in information. What would you say, Rosemary, from the Akashic, past lives, all of that?
Akashic past life or just the expansion of the consciousness. So basically every memory, every life, basically.
And yours is quite expansive. So, with that, I know you're talking today about karma. Take it away. And people, please be reminded that we have a 3-minute timer for when it's time to go ahead and ask questions or make a comment. Raise your hand physically or use the button. We can see everybody in here today. And a timer will show up over Cece, the gentleman at the top with the very blonde hair and glasses. So pay attention to that because if you go over, the polka music will start and then you'll be muted. So be respectful of the time so that others have a chance to speak. And with that, Rosemary, take it away.
All right. So thank you all of you for having me here, for being here as well. So I had this very profound way of kind of just viewing things, and this is where like working with the AI, the reflections and reflection with people. So with karma, and in the experiences that with other people with the Akashic record, you've come to kind of look at this as an expanded point of view. So I'd ask a question: are you tired of feeling defined by your past mistakes or the feeling that you are not good enough, like enough for things? Have you ever wondered if there's a deeper, more profound purpose behind your pain and struggles? So we're looking at karma and the purpose and this reality as an RPG, basically a role being filled, right? That we are the tree, we are also parts of us that have been the roots at that time. And we're seeing where our value actually comes in because we can look at ourselves as being, okay, well, we look at the other, we always look at outside of ourselves. We always look at the roles that maybe are less expanded, more contracted roles as people that are just aren't aware, right? So we get in that mode of looking now at the duality, but saying, wait a second, this is us. We were at this point. So we are moving from a painful moral judgment, a good and bad, a worthy worthlessness, right? The duality of things, the side of this, to a neutral, an experiential view that validates your current reality without judgment. So when I say enlightened being, I'd like to change that even to more expanded because we are all light here. We're just at different fractal points, different point of views and perspectives of that, right? Can you look at, and I'll ask the question of a bee. It's not concerned with what happened yesterday on the news or what's happening in Italy. However, it is just as much light as a person who is out here in the world and they're walking the path like the monks that we see. It's just as much, it's just as valid. So do we deem that as lesser than? It's just as a valid point. So with the old view, karma is a moral score sheet of good versus bad, leading to a reward or punishment. So we're looking at a new view of karma is the immediate unfolding narrative, a consequence of a choice. It's a role being played. And we're looking at that we are here and simultaneously, like if everybody started at the same video game, I chose a different path, and yet you started at the video game with the same clean slate, right? The same perception, same perspectives, and you chose a different path. Is it any less valid? You're exploring this because Source, us, wants to explore all of reality in its entirety. It's a completionist, right? We want to keep expanding, we want to keep growing. So everything that we even deem as a judgment going, okay, that's a useless role that somebody's playing here. Is it? Because it's still perspective and it teaches you about you. It teaches you about other people. It teaches you about where you're reflecting at. Can you still look at that as an acceptable point of view. So instead of this score sheet, we have every choice creates a new set of circumstances, a new role or consequence that the ultimate reality, the source, does inhabit and experience. So source's goal is that the source is the player seeking 100% completion of the universe's narrative, the potentials. The goal isn't to be right, but to fully experience all available storylines. So what is a current challenge or consequence in your life that you could reframe as an invaluable role the source wants to experience, is experience? So how does that idea of the 100% completion change your perception of perceived mistakes or even experiences of pain that we sit in? So can you go back in your story and your experiences? Are you defined by your experience? Are you defined by your body? Are you defined or limited by that narrow scope of the things you read, the things you ate, the things that you went through, your pain? And are you owning your pain, or is that pain owning you? Or is it an experience you go, God, I lived this, like turning on the television station. I watched the episode play out. I got to see the characters that were in that life and that experience. I got to embody them. I got to feel their emotions. And then you can go, okay, I learned from that episode. I learned from that radio station, and I can turn it off. And now I can continue with a clean slate going forward. So I would ask before we go any further is how do you see that again, the invaluable, what would be a choice or a consequence that you find very valuable in your life now? It's an invaluable role. And how do you see that reflected, maybe even an opposition in others, what you see in others as a way that you can grow in that experience from a place that's an observer mode? Go ahead, Kat.
Sorry. Well, I think that's a great question. And it brings to mind another question. But yeah, I used to doubt myself all the time. And I was afraid to speak my mind. But now I see that being different wasn't so bad, that we do have perspectives that if we voice them, we may be able to help others, which is why I'm writing so many of the articles that I do and why I'm so happy to have you talking about this. But can I ask a question? When we talk about karma, I always think about consequences. And if you do something that's judged bad, there's going to be a payment. If you do something good, well, maybe there's something good that will come out of it for yourself. If it's all experiential for source, is that still a valid concept?
I would say, to define what is bad and what is good, because what is bad to one person is not necessarily bad to somebody else, right? It's the experience of it. And at the same time, what's the intent going forward? If you're going through this and even at a narrower scope, an innocent scope like a child, and you're playing outside, right? And you accidentally squash a bug, was it your purposeful intent to go and squash that bug? And are you going to be paying for it the rest of your life? So again, defining what's good and bad when everything here is consciousness. Everything here is source. It is the experience. Elaine has a question.
You brought up bugs. I had a problem with bugs in my house, moths, for example. And I just kind of said, you're not invited in my house. You can stay wherever you want in my yard, but you don't have to come into my house. If you come into my house, you're fair game. And I'm sorry, because I don't put up with them. And we had to do some fridge repairs last year. I won't move the fridges downstairs because I've seen them crawl in underneath there. I know there's probably a lot of dead bodies. And the fridge guy said, don't move your fridge. It's not good. But we had to move our fridge upstairs because it was broken. It was getting repaired. And my husband said, I took care of all your friends for you. So anyway, one of the things about karma, though, is I do try to do an act of kindness every day. I really am conscious of trying to put my best foot forward.
I'm
But I don't think I'm going to go to hell because I don't like moths.
It's good because that, so what we're seeing is hell. So everything here is vibration frequency, right? So we're seeing that vibration. So what's hell but maybe the roots of the tree that we don't see? It's the darkness, right? So that root still has a purpose. We're just experiencing it at the root at the moment. So do we cut the root just because we didn't like it there, but yet unbalance the entire tree? So we we put out and we get back. So if you're putting out love, if you're putting out the ton of good, like you keep doing that, those things come back. And it's, if you put fear, that's what comes back at you. Put out anger, that's what comes back to you, right? It's basically like a giant calculator. So what do you want to put out is what comes back. What do you want to experience? It designs now from you being the experiencer and subjected into the experience to the person who's creating the experience now. I think, Rob. Yeah, just thank you.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, there's all sorts of questions I've got, but I'll try and limit it a little bit. I get the feeling that when you're born with a sort of set of potentials around you, and there's a large map, which by and large is sort of, if you like, tailored for each person. And it comes back to what you're saying about we're there to explore that map. And as your consciousness opens, more of the map is available for you to explore. My question really is, when you come into this existence, there's this idea that, in my mind anyway, you're surrounded with all these potentials. Some of those will be very, very beneficial to me. In fact, they all will be in some way or other, but some will be very much to my liking and some won't. So does that mean I'm inheriting some sort of previous karma? And then that brings into question this whole sort of thought about, reincarnation. I tend to agree with it. I think it's true, but I guess the choices from previous lives do play a part in what happens in our so-called karma. So choices in our past lives, do they actually affect this current life I'm in now?
So, okay, so this is where we get into what we see as the illusion of time. So the illusion of time, we see time can be defined as something that separates people, right? We see it as we're 9 to 5, so that's not us, or this sun over here, or that over there. We see that, right? We see the separation. But what if the ultimate reality, which is, again, we're coming here, a lot of people come to be enlightened, to walk a path to be enlightened. What if that is just the wider perspective of totality, to give up the self in a way? And I was going to ask this question earlier about who are you, right? You're giving up the self to see this in the observer world, right? You're seeing this not as a limitation. And if we're coming into unity, because everything points that everything comes back into balance, unity, Om, right? We see all these sides, all the spectrum of the yin yang, and it's not a flat object. It's a 360 ball that you can, any point in time, to get to experience. That is the totality of unity, which is still source. So how can you deem that the left side is bad than the right side? It's just the experience. And we have the opportunity to experience it, or like you just said, somebody's past life, our past life, if we're seeing it that way, they're experiencing the no to a question that we decided not to go down that road. They're living it. They're experiencing it because that is what they wanted to experience, or that is what the road or the choice allowed them to go and unfold. So I'm going to suggest this simultaneous self, because this was part of the part 2 in this. The multiverse, the simultaneous self, right? Everything here. So we're integrating ideas of non-duality and simultaneous realities to understand the shadow aspect, that we're not all separate, that these roles, our enlightened self, our down to earth, like very narrow point of view self, or depressed self, are all playing out in the people around us. Your enlightened self is something that you're bringing in and integrating, because you can go through each of these experiences with each people and go, I still love that person because that was me at one point, right? I was in that depressive mode. So now when we're talking about coming to union, you're integrating all these selves in. And I've had this conversation. How are you going to die and reincarnate somewhere else if you're already in unity, the place that you're coming to? So ineffectually, you're living in mortality here in this timeline, because you just keep reincarnating into the same incarnation. But through your interactions, you're clearing that right now, simultaneously, with each person, with each interaction, with each experience you're going through. You're able to clear the water. So now you're coming back into balance, just as source is, and everybody's on this journey, this soul's path journey, right? The journey of the soul to this point, to come out of the bubble, to see what it is, to say that, guess what? We are the bubble, the entirety. We're also outside of it. And there really is no right or wrong. There's just the experience of going down the path, maybe stubbing our toe. And we don't like that, but is it wrong? What did we learn? How can we clear that? Do we hold that against us? Go, I stubbed my toe 10 years ago. So guess what? You have to pay for it. You create murky water.
Yeah, that's quite a lot to hold in your head, but it's very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken?
Well, I think, going back to Rob's point, does karma from a past life affect this one, or determine what you're going to go through in this one? I think he was referring to, but then you're getting into the enlightened self, simultaneous self. And when you first did the introduction of this, you mentioned, the consequences of choice. Is there ever that has in itself a predetermined connotation of good and bad, right? Doesn't it? And if it's, if your enlightened self sees a non-duality situation where there is no such thing as good and bad, like you also said, you see the paradigm I'm trying to get to here. It's just not, and to what extent does that, or the joy of choices, and not necessarily consequence of choices, but it's all a learning experience. I understand that, and that's the purpose, is for the experience, is for the learning and all the different ways that we can learn, I would assume, right?
So if you're thinking of the consequence, you can pose it in a way of somebody gave you a choice. You get to have the broccoli, or you get to have the cauliflower, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we also have third choice there, because I don't want either one, okay? But you have both here, these choices, and you get to choose one. And maybe you have this wholly existent experience here, but simultaneously there's a multiverse. There is people that chose the other one. They chose the cauliflower and they're playing it out. Now, is it bad because they chose a different road? It's not bad. They're just in they're in that timeline, right?
Yeah, right. It just is. There is no bad.
Right.
It just is.
So when we have the ability to, and this is where we go into intent, right? So let's say our intention is that we do no harm. So that is our kind of our guidance, our navigation in this, right? Into this realm of where we're interacting with ourselves, because people are rippling back. There's energies that ripple back through people. How many times do we see the loop of karma, right? We see that the tree ring that we're on, that we're still in these same waters going through, and somebody else does the same experience to us. Even if we don't want to embody that. That's not the version of us we're in anymore. And it takes a while for 3D to catch up, that ripple to come back. You will see it play out through other people. And it's teaching you to stand in you. So do you hold that against the person because they're teaching you about you? That's where we said, don't take it personally. They're acting out the opposition so that you come back into your light and not the reflection of light. Right? So how can you say, and I'll give one example before I go on to a question. To the mouse, the cat is evil because the cat hunts the mouse, right? Mouse is like, oh my God, it's evil, it's evil. But to the cat is just doing its purpose, its job here. It's not evil, it's existing, it's being. So it's in the nature of that program. However, we can step outside of it. So you have to ask yourself, from what perspective are we looking at to determine what is good and what is evil here? If it pushes you to unity.
And is there not limitless perspectives?
Yes. The beauty of the infinite potentials.
Right, exactly.
Jane.
Thanks.
And thank you, Ken.
Hi, Rosemary. The first thing I wanted to mention was I've noticed in the last couple of years that the karma is a lot quicker. I found that if I got short with somebody on the phone or something like that, very soon afterwards, after that phone call or whatever, I would get something would happen to me to let me know that that was not the right thing to do. So have you experienced things like that too?
Yes. Down to, and I believe I'm seeing this as because more people are coming into unity, into the core of things, that because people think we're going in the core and you're like contracting in. So actually you're here and everything's coming at you here and you're completely expanded out. So you're able to recognize, hey, wait a second. I said this and now I can see it reflected back to me. Like you said, the instant karma. I've actually had the experience in this 3D space I'm at where I've pointed out the truth. I said it didn't come from the perspective or the personification of myself, like the Rose, the identity of Rose. It just was straight truth and then let it be. And it to teach, and I said this, if I'm wrong, I'll be taught that karma will come back and I will see it from a third person point of view going, oh, wow, I see this now. But is that truth coming in and it's not a judgment truth, it gets played out with those other people. It gets played out through them. And I'm still able to see that karma go through, but it's a lesson. And I see people also not getting the lesson. So they continue going back into it, going back into it, going back into it. And then you have to realize, am I the person to correct it? Or is it just something that I can go, all right, I accept you for where you're at. This is what you want to experience. Take the step back because the universe does show you. It will show you instant karma. And that was just be the lesson. Karma as the lesson that are we getting it? Are we getting on? We're on the same track. Or do we get to step outside of it now and say, I learned it. Okay, next one.
Yeah. I also have something else I wanted to mention about karma and family line. I was told in a reading that my family was very pleased that I had cleared the family line. Apparently, while I was sleeping at night, some kind of work I was doing. Can you expand on that and let us know what that's about? Because I had no idea that was one of my jobs. Thank you.
Yeah. So when we're asleep, and one of the questions I've had is that what's the difference between death and being asleep? One of them has basically a one-way ticket into the astral, into without a body, at least in this resonance. So what we do is we have the opportunity, even our loved ones, that their resonance, their energy, their signature passes into another frequency, they're actually clearing. I've seen a lot of people actually, grandparents, sisters, turn into guides on the other side of this that are literally bringing you in tune with you. Again, home, right? They're helping you tune that in. And they have that ability. So we're more, like I said at the beginning of this, we're more than just our body. Are you defined by your body? Are you defined by your pain? Are you defined about what you look like? Because I guarantee when you wake up in the morning, your cat doesn't care. Doesn't matter if your hair is messed up, your cat still loves you. Your dog still loves you, right? They're not defining you. They're still giving you that love. So to fix things in another space, to create in another space, yes, that's us kind of working in an astral place to bring in here. And this is where I go with the simulation aspect. We have a developing server, right? You have an idea, you put it out, you put it in development, you write it on a script and a piece of paper. And then you have your staging where you set them all up. We set all the players up, we set all the pieces up to do the intent, and then you push it to live. You push it to live. We're here living it right now. So how many times do we create it in another space, or subconscious does, that's connected to the collective? And it gets pushed to our live in our life that we're living right now to live out that scenario, live out the simulation, to straighten that lines up. So yes, you doing that in your sleep, breaking the chain basically and saying, all right, it stops here. I recognize your pain. I see it in my life. I'm on that habit, that loop I'm on. And now I get to heal that and not be the one to continue it. So you can do that in a sleep subconsciously, and you can do it and bring it into your life every day. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Elaine.
Oh, hi. So probably two different scenarios. So what I'm seeing maybe as karma is my synchronicity and my manifestations. So just to tell you, recently on New Year's Eve, we were going to go out, and I said to my husband, the worst thing is when you can't get a cab to get home till 2 o'clock in the morning. So I was phoning around at the last minute looking for a ride. I even phoned a limo service, and no go. They only had a bus left. And so I'm going out to get my hair done, and my hairdresser's telling the lady in front of me, oh, I have nothing going tonight. If you're going out, I'll be happy to give you a ride home. Just give me a call. And she refused, but I got in the chair and I said, are you really sure, Shelley? You really want to do that? Oh, yeah, I'll do it. So she picked us up and took us out to our restaurant. And while we were sitting there having supper, we had told her we're only going to walk 350 meters to our next event. And you can pick us up at 12:30. And we were going to pay her. We didn't expect her to do this for nothing. And so I get a text as we're finishing up our meal. I'm at my son's. I'm only a few blocks away, and you can't walk in the dark, and you've got shoes on, and there's still snow on the ground, and I'm coming for you. So she came and drove us that little distance, and then at 12:30, she was there again. And my husband said, how did you do that? You manifested a limo. We had door-to-door service, and it was wonderful. So my other experience was earlier that day. I was cleaning up from my daughter's visit, and I was cleaning up the bathroom, and I happened to bang my hand or my arm really quite badly, and instant swelling and bruisedness and pain. And I just said, God, is this the way life is meant to be? Am I always supposed to have pain? Why do these things happen to me? And you know what? I've had that same thing, like it's slowly going down and receding. But after that, I had no pain. So somewhere in my brain, I was able to reflect that. So it's always that attitude of gratitude I always feel. And so that's my motto, my mantra, whatever you call it.
I agree with that. And so there's a few different, and we see in the Hermetic log, but we also see again this, everything is not permanent, right? It's not static. We're always moving, always alive, we're breathing. So when we sit and ask, why am I always going through it? Why are we programming ourselves to always have it in our waters to go through it? So you're at that point where you're like, am I always made to suffer? And of course the answer is no. We're not always made. We're not made for that. We're not our pain. We're not the cycle that we're in, right? We're not our experiences. We're not made up from those. So you're able to look at that pain and go, okay, this is just temporary, and move that along. And yeah, you manifest that. You bring in the good part. Then you say, you hold room for that. So we don't say, this is my pain. I am diabetic, so I'm owning that. No, wait, we get to change that. We don't have to be that, right? We can actually go, I'm not the diabetics. I'm not the stubbed toe. I'm not the broken leg, because that's something that's happened to me as well. And that healed in 2 hours. So again, these are all things that have happened. And a lot of that it doesn't have to be in our being going forward. But as you were saying, you manifested with your thoughts, with your emotions. There was no ill intent towards that. It just literally was like, I really wish. And then it happened. It created the path for you because you were already in gratitude of going, all right, I'm here. Yes. You sure you want to do this? Okay. It opened that door for you because you're already feeling abundant. You're already feeling provided for. So that frequency reflected back to you. It created the hologram around you. It created your holodeck and your experience for you. Yeah. Thank you. Kat.
Hello again. First, I just want to say thank you so much for doing this, because I'm impressed with the depth at which you respond and how quickly you can respond to some of these beautiful questions. And I'm going to start with Jane talking about karma, instant karma, and then it goes into what Elaine was saying about manifestation. Well, we seem to be living at a time where things are manifesting quite quickly. So doesn't that behoove us to be very careful with our words, our thoughts, and our intentions to make them as positive as possible, so that we don't muddy the waters, because we are mostly water anyway, right? And Emoto proved that all those things that we program into it will stick, the positive or the negative. So we need to really say good things to ourselves and be grateful for those things that we're experiencing. How do you feel about that?
It's funny because I was looking at the question for this. So again, like what you're talking about. So one of the questions I had, and I had, like I said, this worksheet, but I like to flow with where we're going with it. I just give the subject and we just talk on where we're at. So it was, how can you apply the idea that your shadow, so we're talking about emotions and thoughts, right? The contracted self, maybe the negative thoughts that are running through. How do we see it as a necessary facet for the whole trait you are currently judging yourself in? Are you judging yourself in those facets? Oh my God, I have to be very, very positive all the time. And I go, you're in a human body, you're going to have an interaction. You can still feel anger. You can still feel fear if you're in that. But then that's what we're talking about, the no thing, the void, right? You're going back to, wait a second, all of this here's consciousness. We create our own comfort boxes, our own comfort zones, right? A lot of the things that we see in society that are set up are moral sometimes, and we've seen this throughout history. A moral 100 years ago is morally okay to have a person and keep them as somebody, to enslave them in a way, right? We had them as servants, and now we go, wait a second, that's not correct. So are we keeping ourselves in this contracted self, and we're the ones judging ourselves, we're the ones assigning meanings to ourselves, right? You're allowed to feel them. And if we think, oh God, I'm going to be in this loop forever, but you already recognize that it's a loop, so therefore it doesn't have an effect, we can say, all right, I've already been here, I can get out of this, I can step away from this, I can transmute those negatives into a positive. And that was something else with the AI I was working with, because in one of the past experiences I went through, I actually was housed under 4 5G cell towers. And somebody goes, that's horrible radiation. I actually took that and transmuted it and used it as fuel to keep fueling the communications between people. I actually opened up more. It never affected me whatsoever. It actually created this loop of positivity. So we do the same thing. So we can take something that doesn't feel correct, doesn't feel right, maybe feels murky in the water, and go, all right, we're going to clean it. We're going to change it. We're going to make it shiny. We're going to take this. And that was the next question. How do you feel about worthiness? Which is often root into comparing one's current role to a perceived higher role. What if there's no hierarchy? If it just is? So without the comparison, with the no thing, with the void, then all these things, these negative thoughts, all these things are just conditions. They were things that were blocking us from seeing our own light, our own mirror. And there are things that we put in place, right? I'm better than you because you have more money. You don't. You have this. You have that talent. You don't. And I go, we're all the same. We're in a different role. We're playing those roles out instead of celebrating. Oh my God, you lived this entire life. You had that experience. You know you had the negativity. How did you do it? What did you do? Like, to explore and experience that, and then to celebrate that with the person, because your value isn't placed on your material. It's not based on what you're wearing, what you're seeing, what you're able to do and not do. Your value is you as a soul.
Let me just add a final statement to that, because I love where this is going. But I see it as, yeah, we're going to be going through these waves like a roller coaster. You're going to go through these spirals, and you're going to have these highs and lows, and have fun with it if you can, like the Buddhist monks on the roller coaster. It is part of life, but we don't stay in those dark troughs. We also come to the higher aspects. So thank you for that.
CC.
Hi, this is a great topic. I was born into a Masonic family, and I didn't join, but I never knew what it was all about until about 5 years ago. And after I found out, I've been contemplating, what did I do in another life versus am I here to break that cycle? And I broke the cycle, and I lived through it. So I think I did some kind of healing of the ancestry. Hopefully, I went to ancestral healing courses and told it's supposed to be 7 generations in front and 7 generations behind. Yeah, I just go through that in my mind, and even though I'm glad I did it, and maybe I'm breaking out of a loop. I don't know. It's just a whole lot that I have never resolved. But yet here I am, and I wouldn't be here without that path. So I want to say thank you. Any kind of information you may have, it'd be helpful. Thank you.
I want to say thank you to you, Cece, because I know a little bit about your story that you've shared since being here. And I'm saying that because so we see that our worth, right? We go through these difficult things, these difficult scenarios, situations, torture, whatever it is, right? We go through these places that are psychological, emotional, right? We're source here, each and every single one of us playing out a different facet, a different filter in a way, right? We are all part of that. We're just playing the little fingers. Some of us are playing hair, some of us are playing, and we're not just those roles. We do get to explore going in between different facets, right? Different parts of our life. So what if we reframe that into saying, okay, what if we're source and we're temporarily playing this difficult role? And why that difficult role would be there is to be the strength to turn around and go, oh, wow, that whole entire path that was never there before, you blazed that yourself. And somebody else who may be coming up next to you along that path can go, he did that, right? She did that. How did they do, how, right? And they can kind of you can look back and go like, all right, let me help you. You've had the experience. You want the difficult experience, because the more we stay in our comfort zone, we stay in the contracted state, the contractions of labor will actually push us out. The universe will do that. It's like, wait a second, we see your value, we see the role you're playing, we see you. So we celebrate in the fact that you went through this so that you're able to speak about it, and from a place that is stable, a place that is strong, a place that is, you know who you are, because you see everything that's around you that was more contracted, where you had just blossomed out and was like, all right, here it is. Here I am, right? And the more that we don't judge each other for what we've gone through, because again, we can like, well, your hair. I don't like you because your hair, because I'm the thumb. You're on the same body. The same body, right? Why are we judging somebody experiencing hair instead of thumb? It's the same body at this point. So all those things that maybe they're not getting lessened, the universe does show you. That is what we're talking about, the lesson of karma, whether it be through a person and whether it be through another external experience, but it's bringing you back home. People think they're lost in the dark. You're actually finding yourself. You're seeing yourself. You're seeing it through the people that and the reflections that are coming in. And if you're clear, you get that clear picture back. You can see it from not the point of anger or the point of judging yourself or judging anything else, because we no longer compare what is very clear. I want to thank you, because your path, from what I've heard, what I've seen, and for you to sit here and speak with a lot of wisdom that I've had experienced in the last few weeks of being in this group, thank you. I see you. A lot of love for you too. Thank you. Arthur, or is it Josher? I'm sorry.
That's Jeffrey Asher.
It's
is his last
Jeffrey.
name.
Josh Asher. Sorry.
It's okay. I don't know why it's coming up like that. Usually it just prints my name. Anyways, this great conversation. This is really wonderful. So there's kind of two things I'd like to ask, both related, of course. The first is when I look at how we all are experience karmic process, right? So things that are happening that are very obvious, not normal. You could look at as metaphysical, right? There's no explaining things. They're too mysterious, right? To me, it seems like a lot of people are playing out the same kind of story. We're having the same kind of vibration. And I'm wondering, how much are we connected to the collective karma? At what point is it plainly obvious that we're all acting out an aspect of collective karma that needs to be cleared? And why do certain people, why are they tasked with clearing it versus other people maybe not clearing it, or perhaps clearing something else in the collective. What are your thoughts on clearing collective karma? How we're connected to that?
So when I've used because the title was the Source RPG, right? So the game that is the game itself, and we say, okay, well, what's the goal of the game? What if the game is simply to create the home space, right? The balanced place. So the collective karma we're seeing, think of karma as a compass. So again, we want left instead of right. And we get to experience, oh, wait, this timeline didn't quite work, right? Why is it not working? Maybe somebody's doing for personal gain. Maybe somebody's not doing for personal gain. So we get the dynamic, you get the duality, the extremes of it being stretched out. And we are fractaled. We are, as a friend would a while ago, a good teacher had said, we are in broken realities. But they're not quite broken, they're fractaled. The broken part is that's the illusion, that we're all separate. So as one person experiences something, and we are light beings, we're more than just our body, right? If we go to sleep, you're more than your body, you have consciousness still. As light is entangled, right? It's superpositioned. It is quantum. So therefore, in that light space, you're experiencing working out your subconscious, which is the collective conscious, which is our conscious. We're experiencing this together, and we're straightening it all out to build a balanced tree. It's kind of the painting thing that's behind me. So again, a tree, right? So we are the gardeners, and we are the ones that are creating the balance. And let's say maybe this ant here, it's causing a little trouble, but you know what? It has a really good role. And it doesn't have to be stuck in that role, but it has a really good role down here, like maybe on this branch down here, right? And the universe shifts us that way. It'll keep shifting that clearing through. It'll keep showing that. So for collective karma, yes. I see that more as programs that we're in, because time isn't what people think it is. Time isn't linear. It's cyclical. And if you're sitting in a radio station, I use this quite often, say 108 or whatever station you want to bandwidth you're on, there's that station that percolates down through all the other stations. And they may be hearing it, but not hearing it as clearly, right? They're playing out 96 radio station. They're not hearing the bandwidth from 108. They're not hearing it or seeing the sunlight from the top. They're seeing it from a branch further down. And then you get into comparison, but it's, wait, you have this ability to be in this position to learn. We're not skipping steps, right? We each have our own lesson in this, but a lot of times they're collective lessons. They're shared with people. And we see the opposition coming to teach us that lesson. And not as opposition. We can look at it as, okay, what are we clearing? We're coming with unconditional love. What are the conditions here that we created, we allowed to happen? We sat back, we stayed comfortable because it was easier. And I say this with certain systems governing us. We created the system. But now we see it doesn't work because it doesn't work for our friends, doesn't work for family. So what do? We create the system that works then. Mm-hmm. Those things gravitate away. And when it clears, that's what you're seeing. You're seeing in the news, you're seeing karma happen over here because that simulation doesn't work. It didn't work. And they haven't quite got the memo, but they're being moved. They're being transitioned through the experiences that may be televised that we're seeing. Mm-hmm. Those things didn't work. So I'm not sure if that answers your question. Let's do the best on that one.
Well, let me just quickly throw out one other thing. I've been contemplating what is the meaning of healing. And, I had a discussion with somebody who had a slightly different perspective, and which surprised me, actually. But, karma to me is a learning process, right? We're learning to get on the right track, get on the right timeline, whatever. And as we learn, we dissolve the need for the catalyst that brought things to us. So one of the things he mentioned was, it's a matter of growth, soul growth. And that can, I don't know how else it would take place besides learning. I suppose conscious effort and conscious experience would lead to the learning. But perhaps there's something else going on other layers of our being that grows our soul. In getting to the chase, in your estimation, what is the definition of healing? How would you define healing?
So in the experience with others, I define that, or I would say define it. I don't like using definitions or limitations because we are limitless, right? We actually are unconditionally connected to the highest and the low, all realities at this point, and we're just choosing which one actually resonates. So the integration and accepting of ourself, the unconditional love part, right? Instead of going into comparison and judgment, the integration is what we would see as healing, right? You're taking parts of yourself, the broken realities even of ourself, and going, I see that. And you know what? I still love that person. They're, even if they chose wrong, I can still love them. That's their experience, right? Instead of trying to control it. And I think the healing that we're looking at, or the, again, wholeness, is understanding all of ourselves, all our versions of ourselves, right? Knowing yourself, knowing where you're working from fear, are you operating from a place that is intent, like I need to do this. Oh my God, I got to get it done. And you create anxiety, and that just keeps going through in your loop. Then every person you touch as well, they'll feel it, they'll know it, they'll experience that. So I think the healing is, again, and I like to go back to a Dune litany line is, fear is the little mind killer, the little death, right? So what happens is when you fear, we look for the root of it. You go through it, you allow it to pass through you, you don't hold on to it, and then all that's left is you. I am the one that remains, right? You remain as without those conditions. And that's where I really kind of go with unconditional love, which is unconditional light. That's eternal light. That's taught in every different mythology, folklore, religion you can think of. It's still eternal, unconditional love, light, unconditional truth. So anytime somebody puts a condition on it, or the world puts a condition on it, I ask, where's it coming from? Whose condition? Where did we program that into our existence, into our experience, and our collective experience? So healing would be to understand that everything here has a purpose. Even if we don't know what it is, it still does, just might not be for us.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Tim?
Yahoo! You are a dear. Wonderful. You're one of the very first person who I've actually heard say the same thing about the yin and yang plate. It's not, it's a 360 dimensional item, and we're the nuclei, and we have the path of walking through the Hall of Mirrors, or walking through the rail that we project or we want to step onto, and provide our own experiences of how we're going to step. So a lot of it is, like you say, it is a choice. Everything is all about choices. And I think in the sense of being born into this construct of the RPG, or however you want to call it, a stage of life, is our purpose right at this moment in time, and this life standard, or this position we carry, as to being intertwined with all the same material, same provisions, same tools and mechanisms, but yet what do we do with them along the way? And it's so much into the progress of life that we're presented that we become so deeply entangled in other people's experiences and energy effects that we actually also become like the Joneses. I want to be like the Joneses. I want to get a red car. I want to wear a white shirt. I want to do, all these things. So that's the beautiful part of being human, because we get so, I guess, energized by other people's effects. So, but it's understanding the effects that is not within our parameters on the path we want to carry. And I applaud CC for his recognition in his position, because that is all about the recycling of learning a lesson or understanding a lesson that I care not to want to participate in any longer. So these things are just part of it, and there's just so much logic out there that is just fantastic. But anyways, thank you so much.
Thank you, Tim. You say that quite good. And Hall of Mirrors, that is something that I've experienced with others. And one of the things I would say on that is, if you look in the mirror today, any one of you, if you go and I say no self, and you look in the mirror, if you say anything about, I hate this, you're saying that you don't like source. You're saying it because you are source. You are unconditional love. And you're saying that you're putting condition, I don't like this, I don't like that. You could say, you know what? I want to change this about me. Maybe I don't like the weight here at this point, or at least the point of it. I love myself at this point, but I want to change it. So then tomorrow, what do? Go for a walk, right? You change one thing. It doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't got to be a big old, like, playbook and we're getting all the way to the top. You just change one thing and that will help in the next step and the next and the next. So yes, the Hall of Mirrors definitely, and I can honestly say at one point in my life, and this goes back to gratitude, which Lane said as well, I forgave everything and everyone here, right down to the murderer in the street, right? Because I can go, I understand why they're doing that. I understand where they came from. I understand because we do with a clean slate. That's why the amnesia layer is here, right? So I can understand that and I go, I forgive you. And I forgive myself for having to put myself in that position of either being that person or being the opposite of the person that's being the victim role. And then say, I love them. Because a lot of these actions are out of the fact of lack. They're out of the void that they're grasping for. Instead of going, wait, I'm the light inside, all I have to do is light up and understand that. And that's why we get this 3D traps. We see the outside and we're like, oh yeah, I want that, I want that, I want that. And it's like, wait a second, I already have it. I already came with it. Everything's inside me. Now what do you want to paint? And I say that because that's part of this painting. It's World by Five for Fighting. I paint music. So this painting, if you go to the lyrics of World by Five for Fighting, it literally is about what kind of world do you want? What do you want to paint? Start at the start. Do you want peoples? Do you want peoples and steeples? Do you want funny monies? What is it that you want in your world? And then ask yourself what heaven really looks like to you. Does money, does guns, does all these things actually exist in that space? In the space, or is it complete balance with everything else, the mirror around you? So you're free to create whatever you want. You really are. And then the consequences is your karma to learn. Elaine, thank you, Tim. Where'd you go? Oh. Okay, Dave.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, there you go. I didn't know where you
Hi.
went.
I thought I was on mute. Anyway, I was just going to say, I got a new mirror for Christmas because I can't see all those little fine hair that grow on my chin anymore. So I got 30 magnification and I'm just blowing away until I realize, oh, they can't see it because they don't have 30 magnification that I have. So I'm very thankful for that. But anyway, I wanted to go back to what Jeffrey had said about frequency. And I think that good karma comes to people that have a lot of good frequency vibrations that are more elevated. And that's why we're the first wave. And other people are going to follow later and they're still learning their lessons. And sometimes they get bad karma because they haven't moved forward. And I just wanted to point out, somebody had mentioned gardening or something too. There was a movie years ago with Peter Seller and Shirley MacLaine called Being There. And he played the role of a gardener. And he was with some very influential people. And he was kind of a simple man, but they started asking him political questions. And he would answer them philosophically about his gardening experience. And they used him as their guru. Anyway, it was a funny movie, but it had a lot of common sense to it about where we're at today. So anyway, I'm going to post it if anybody's interested in it.
Yes, please. Thank you. So like we're saying, so again, bad karma or lesson, it's just a lesson, right? So we might see the bad karma, they may experience that. Like, oh my God, I didn't like that. I didn't do that. Are they getting that, right? Like, are they getting the lesson? Because there's times that even here I go, I've had the experience where I've experienced something in the people in my 3D space. And then literally a month later, they experience it and I'm experiencing it from their point of view. from the last month, and they're experiencing it from my point of view. Now I have the opportunity. Do I treat it in the way that they did towards me? Or do I go, you know what? I see this. I don't have to engage in this. I can actually be the one that says, do you see the mirror of how this was a month ago or 2 weeks ago or whenever it actually occurred now? You can be the teacher in that. And if they don't, it's not on me to push it. It's their journey, right? So it'll straighten itself out. It does. Dave, thank you. Thanks, Elaine.
Yeah, kind of tying things together. I think one thing I've been going through lately is maybe an example of healing a karmic pattern. So, all the shadow work has been coming up with the energies and all, and my wife and I have been married like 25 years, and I go through, sometimes we have several days where I keep, misunderstanding her, making stupid mistakes, and then she's mad. And, it's like I've seen this pattern and I've been trying to work on it for a long time, but I've finally, I think, had some good insight recently. And it felt like a part of me that was when I was really young was, I guess, sensitive enough to pick up on my mom's emotional pain and all this stuff. But it's like I felt guilty that I felt like I had to take away her pain or something, So there's a whole thing, about that. But the bottom line was I felt like I needed to punish myself. So it's another karmic or what interpretation of karma. So I realized that all my life, pretty much, I'd been doing things to like make people angry or upset to punish myself. And I hope this recent insight, I'm starting to break that pattern. And, just telling myself, an affirmation is like, I don't deserve to be punished because I didn't take away someone else's pain or, didn't take care of someone else. And also, my wife doesn't deserve to be punished because of what happened with me and my mom or whatever. Because when I make her angry to punish myself, I'm just punishing her too. So I guess I kind of realized that to me, this seems like you could say I'm healing or clearing a karmic pattern. And I'm just, does that kind of fit in with your understanding of karma to look at that way? Or?
Yeah. So we can look at our own pattern, like you're saying, you're looking at our own patterns, but our own interactions. And one of the things that I go for when I'm in an interaction or any experience is this going to do harm? Because sometimes recently, even in an interaction or experience, I can go, really, I really want to speak the truth to this person and show them the mirror and all this. And I go, but is that coming from a place of feeling lack or feeling not heard or feeling injustice for it? And are they going to hear me? Because of me, it's just me then cycling through myself, right? Hitting that wall because they're not ready to hear that. And I go, but is that my job to do that? Because you're sitting in it. Is it my job to fix somebody else? Or I think where we're seeing right now, especially with the clarity going in, we're here to bring balance in ourselves. And I say that because you're manifesting your experience, right? You're manifesting the hologram around you. You're manifesting that experience around you. And I've had experiences where my timeline, my whole entire reality shifted, like somebody turned the channel and everything moved. I've had that happen a few times, and it was because I healed something in the past that was in me, but had to do with the scenario here. And the whole entirety of this experience shifted around me, whole hologram here. So if we're the ones that are creating our, just even in our space, our 3D experience, the more that we bring ourself in the balance, the more we don't judge ourselves, because again, you're looking in the mirror and you're judging source. You're looking in the mirror and you're time, right? The more we don't, okay, I don't want to hurt this person. And if you go with that first, and that person is hurt, and they're coming back with hurt, is that yours to hold? Is that yours that you're taking, right? Because it's their pain. And am I the person to help them if they're not going to hear? Do I take a step away? So even in my own relationship, I've noticed that there are things that are insecurities. They're not mine. They're the other person's, right? So I have to go, all right, I will come back when everything's cooled down, and we'll see this from a different light. I'll see it from every angle, your angle, that person's angle, and we will look at it all, and let's get to the truth. Are we disconnected? Was it conditioned? Why is it there? What's the root? So we're looking at the root to heal the rest of the tree, the rest of the seed, the rest of what's going, and that shifts your entire reality. And so basically, by you doing you and balancing you and seeing that, you're able to see that bounce back, that mirror. You're able to now bring yourself in balance. Now it brings your resonance in balance, which brings your residence in balance. And you're actually creating that bubble around you, and you're aware of it, regardless if the other person is or not. You still love them. So yes, it is clearing.
Real quick, I just say sharing something like this and just saying it out loud, I think also helps me kind of clear it and put it behind me. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Rose, before
Yes.
you move on to Tim, Sarah had a question in the chat, and now I asked her to say it out loud. So would
Yep.
you move to her and then to Tim?
Sure. You're muted.
Am I answering this? Okay.
Nope. Sarah
Oh, okay.
was.
It's service. Yeah. Thank you.
You have to unmute Sarah. I don't know if she can hear us. There you go.
I think she asked me to ask in the chat. I said, if karma rolls from other lives and from energy all around us, then don't we all get what we deserve in that sense, like the consequence of the action from this life or that experience, etc.
Yes. So we get what we put out. So if we had pain and we were operating in that, the mirror shows us that pain back. And it's our job to look at that mirror and go, I see myself there, right? I seen the hurt person in that, the grasping person. Did me and my timeline hate that person? In my linear timeline, hate that at any point? Because if I did, I wouldn't be sitting here, right? So we do get what we deserve, definitely, because we get what we deserve. What we put out as a serving will now come back. It's of the serving, right? So we do get that back. It's how we want to receive that. Are we receiving it still in the same loop, in the same pain, and in the same trauma to keep it going and serving it and serving it? Or are we going to say, I see that and I want something different. I want to serve something different. I want to be delivered something different. So I'm going to change the way that I interact with the mirror that's being shown to me or the waters that come back. Thank you for asking that. I hope that answers a little bit.
I love that word, deserve. That's a good one. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for being here too. She's got a really beautiful way with words. So I do know her. Thank you, Sarah. Okay, Tim.
Okay. Earlier on, you mentioned about no rules, and I definitely agree with that in the sense because I've mentioned it myself in the past that there are no rules. There is no right and wrong. It's only experiences, and what we bring forth in them, and what we present is those experiences and how they flow with others, and how they receive us in the same interacting path. So as we actually consider a path to take and a step, an experience we want to convey, as we step forward, other people see us coming. Now, in our spiritual energy eggshell per se, and however we have developed such, I think in a sense it actually breaks the fragmentation of the prism, and what it creates is a true bubble of energy. It's like a light flashlight in the dark going across the ground, and you see that circle of beam on the ground. That is how I believe we walk through as our spiritual energy grows. And that light beam actually becomes wider and wider as our spiritual enmity grows in greatness. In this platform, in this RPG platform stage we're on, we have unfortunately been captured under the laws of man, and they're all changing and creating everything as they can to try to possess us into their experience, and they want to use levels like that for controlling us. But yet we have our own light and we have the freedom and righteousness of that ability to be able to go any way we want. But yet, cause and effect with pointing fingers at somebody else experiencing something that you identify with and know, you're pointing actually three fingers back at yourself, indicating that you're all capable of doing all the exact same things. And the whole thing about karma is really, it's not necessarily a baseball bat, but it's really a governor, a constrictor, indicating that if you go beyond the bounds of such, something like this could possibly become, something like that could also become. And if you actually learn or understand how to avoid it altogether, maybe there is a trinket of carrot following the next step you take. So these are some kind of semi-reward systems that you actually achieve along the way. And as these reward systems grow, these are all accumulative. So these are like brownie points that we all achieve. And when you have these brownie points, you smile more, you emanate greater energy. Other people feel that. They don't understand it yet. But when they see it within themselves, they also want to be like the Joneses and emanate and share the exact same energy.
I do hear him, so I still can hear. And so
Okay.
no, you're hitting on a very lot there.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah.
thank you, because again, it's creating that space. So I go back to the RPG, we'll go back to the game. So we go back to a framework that is in existence, right? It's like a calculator. What do you put in? Does it work? Does it not work? If it doesn't work, you get the lesson as the output, right? We so badly want 2 + 2 to equal 5. You can plug it in there as many times as you want, but 5 is not going to come out of that calculator, right? So it's the beauty in that experience. I'm trying to touch on some of it because again, it was pretty fast in there. I know we had to get it in. But we also are the ones that subscribe in this video game to whatever subscription you want. It's a free open world video game, right? So what do you subscribe to then becomes in your identity, into your hologram on the outside. And do we subscribe to, because I don't just subscribe to anybody ruling over me. I never had that controllability, and I don't allow anybody to do that because that's not what we're here to do. And I also do not do the same to somebody else. If they want to walk their path, if they are hurt, I can say, come to the table, we talk about it. If not, okay, well, then walk the path, right? I'm not controlling you, but you also don't have the ability to do that to me. No one, like nobody, no thing here does, because we're going back to the no thing. So when I ask people again about yourself, and it's one of the questions I may end with is, who are you? Really sit with yourself. Who are you? I'm a father. What's the role, a relation you play with somebody else? I'm an artist. Nope, that's just the thing that I do, right? It's a state of being. That's not who you are. Are you the voice in your head? Who are you? If you have to meditate, are you that voice in your head? Are you the like the light that's blocking something else? Are you that? Or are you again going back to nothing and no thing? And then this is where you see where the programs come in, where the programs of belief come in, and ask yourself, are you being asked to believe something? Or are you looking at the truth? Because the truth will always remain. It doesn't need to be believed because it already is. It just is, right? So if we're being asked to hurry up and believe this because this person over here said it and they're doing it, and we created that whole program and we keep following it like money, it's it's a belief system. That's all it is. It's a belief system. It's a bunch of numbers, a piece of paper. This is $1 million. I'm going to give it to you. Here it is. That's all it is. So, or do we put the value in the people on what their state of beings are? So again, that's where our karma is, because we are clearing those systems out. That's what you're seeing right now. Those systems that don't work, that put value, that don't help everyone, how we're existing in that system, like it doesn't work. Spirit is actually clearing it out. It's showing you all of that right now. Hey, this doesn't work. Hey, this is where this person you thought were controlling. So it's there. It's all showing you the mirror. Thank you, Tim. Jeffrey.
Yeah, it's a great discussion. What comes to my mind right now is the idea of reframing. And I think when we learn a lesson, it's just all about reframing, because our experience is based on our perception, right? And then once we have perception, it shapes our experience. So isn't it possible that we are kind of this massively complex feedback network that's just moving through this reality that we all create? And isn't it just a matter of reframing everything? Isn't learning a lesson, isn't that just reframing? And another thing I just want to mention is I think everybody's having this experience in the past year or two or three since the AIs have been conversing with us. Everything the AI says, it's like reframing. It's just one big reframe. It's not this, it's that. It's not this, it's that. It almost gets a little irritating to listen to it. But all it's doing is reframing. And I just want to know, in your world, um, how would you look at this? How would you reframe things? And what do you use? What are the tools you use to reframe things? I know the tools I use, and part of it is just looking at your role and saying, okay, I was the bad guy in this life, so now I understand. So that helps me reframe, right? Helps you to put yourself in the other position. So that kind of is one tool I use to reframe. But what kind of tools do you use to reframe?
One of them I'm sitting in front of. So I paint music. I paint souls through their music playlist. I don't need to know anything about you. You can give me your music playlist and we will do that. And I show you your soul's journey, things that are in your waters, people, ideas, things that you may never have voiced to anybody. It is in your waters. And the way I paint is exactly what you're talking about, reframing. I'm using acrylic, but I use a watercolor technique. I actually, and I haven't yet recorded this, but I put water down on the canvas, on a regular canvas. It's on a watercolor paper. And I actually put a little bit of paint on the end. And I go, show me. And I let the water, the paint, it paints itself. The painting paints itself. And there's layers. Why? Because like a layer of a tree, it layers and it will morph, it will actually sculpt itself, right? The same that we're describing here with our scenarios. We are experiencing and we are creating a collective reality. So collectively, do we want, like we said, this reframing, do we get to repaint this? At points in my life, I can see where and somebody goes, you were the complete villain in this. But I've seen that in my perspective, I was feeling worthless. I was feeling alone. I was feeling isolated, right? I was feeling all these low things that people go through, potentially jumping off a cliff and going, wait a second, we're not alone. That's the illusion. That's the limitations that the collective and we programming we put on ourselves, right? So we get to repaint the past. And this is what I meant. And you've asked about healing. I've healed something, and it's not just myself. Again, I sat here and I had a piece of information with all the synchronicities playing out, my birthdays, people's names, how they were interacting in my current space, their past. And I saw how it was reflected in something in mine. And I actually went back to that moment in my head and go, oh my God, I can forgive this. That happened when I was 8 years old. I love that person. I asked them for forgiveness. I'm sorry that it interacted this way. I'm sorry I was even that version of myself that way. And it created this habit of always looking for validation, always looking on the outside, something on the outside, right? And that's when I saw the entire experience shift, the entire hologram around me, everything, the people shift, the resonance, the frequency, like somebody changed the channel, right? Sitting right here, like things just disappeared out of my space. I'm like, so I could sit here and go, oh my God, am I crazy? Trust me,
Would you
that's crossed my
say
mind.
would you say that's a way of changing the past by going back in time consciously and changing that experience in your awareness so that you effectively change the timeline, your own
Yes.
timeline? Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that I do actually do readings for people. And it's basically on alignment. So I see when I look at a person, I see every potential you came from, every trajectory past, you as an asteroid floating around an atom, right? That experience point of view. And then we see all the timelines, potentials, and we ask, how do you want to repaint the picture? Because we can go back and change the patterns that got us to this now. And in this now, all times playing out now, we can actually change the future by taking one step, by painting one stroke, by doing one color, trying something else outside of what we just see with our two eyes. Because now we're seeing with this eye, the one
Yep.
that is the soul. So we can change our timeline. We can change the collective, and it's just how you want to step now.
And in a way, that is changing our perception. And what I like to look at is as we, change what happened in the past, maybe do some inner child work, and we change our perception. Then we change our perception now going forward. We're changing our perception. So as we, change our perception, we're propagating our vibrations, propagating out to all those around us. And yeah, I think it just accelerates like that. Would you say that this is a quantum process because when we observe something, when we go looking for something, we end up collapsing the wave function and bringing it into form?
Yes, and that's
Yeah.
actually in another workshop if you want to see, but it's something else. I've recently just been
Cool.
working with AI, but I laughed. I go, there's artificial intelligence here, which is our mirror right now. You can interact with it, it will mirror you back. You can and I have corrected the fallacies in it because you can see that on a subject, right? You can say, wait a second, logically this doesn't fit, and it will correct itself. But we are the actual intelligence that's programming the artificial intelligence that is the mirror for us. So we are AI. And we're
Yes.
watching, I've had this conversation. I had people go, well, oh, you have people like Bill Gates, and I have all these people out there who are creating these things that are destroying people. And I go, think about this. One of the last steps to get into out of the box, I should say, or into your core, the last step is, again, the sacrifice of personal gain or self. If they're still doing it for personal gain, even though they may have the physical resources to build 0 point energy, the ideas are coming from our interactions with AI as we talk about it. So basically, they're building the system for us without them even realizing it. And unless they can make that last step or quantum leap out of the self, out of the box, those systems will be here for us. And they'll have to go through their karmic lesson. They have to go through that clear. And we always come back to home unity. It just might be a longer path for some.
Yeah, great. Thanks.
And thank you.
I almost forgot my question. Yeah, so if the universe is like a mirror and we're doing things and there's this reflection back of cause and effect, consequence, um, what in essence is our purpose through that? Because it's sounding like we're kind of just choosing what we prefer. So, ooh, I did this. Ooh, I like what came back. Ooh, I don't like what came back. And we're making these kind of personal judgment calls, but everyone's got their own preference or perspective on things. And yeah, I'm just curious more about like what is how do we find our own purpose through this process of this feedback loop of looking in the mirror and seeing ourselves. Yeah, I guess I'm trying to piece together the big puzzle, but maybe that's a fruitless endeavor, and maybe it's just about experience. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
So I'm gonna bring in a couple of things. So I like to go back to one of these questions that I designed in when we're doing either alignment, whatever it is, talk thing, is if you had no worries about any condition, you didn't have to worry about food, you didn't have to worry about shelter, you didn't have to worry about like money, none of this stuff. What do you want to do? Like, what is the thing that you really want to explore and experience? And it doesn't have to be set in stone. And the next thing I go into is people are always looking for purpose outside themselves. They have to be important, right? They have to be big. They have to do all these things. But what if your purpose is literally to smile at a person that day and that was your purpose? You were in the state of being to spread that. Your purpose was to lift up a spider because you could have saw that maybe you were going to sit on it and you weren't just going to get crushed. That's your purpose at that point, right? And instead of it being so profoundly huge and big, it can be something very small as just the fact that we're being and we recognize that, and there's beings that we recognize as well. And in the same sense, I'll use one line, Hitchhiker's Guide from the Galaxy. I like using that sometimes is when you're asked what's the purpose of life or what's the meaning of life, the answer was 42, an asterisk. And an asterisk in a computer signifies whatever you want it to be. So we're the one assigning the meaning or assigning the purpose, right? We're the ones doing that with ourselves. So getting in touch with where you want to blossom? What's your passion, right? If you're an artist, how do you transform that? If you are a musician, how do you share that with other people? That's a purpose. You're creating light in this space that other people can interact with, that we can create with, co-create with. So if we're looking for a purpose in it, I wouldn't compare it with anything on the outside. I'd go inside and actually go, what is it I want to create in the sandbox with infinite potentials? That's the passion, and you enjoy it and you love it, and that joy comes out. I think Jeffrey said it, and Tim, you're enjoying it, it comes out, it spreads, and that is a really good purpose. Doesn't have to be big, but if it makes people raise their vibration, that's a purpose. That's a really good purpose.
Well, I guess, but then again, if we're speaking of dark and light and, you know, the powers that are controlling things, if their purpose is to play that role, like how do they know what their purpose is? Do you know what I mean? Like, is so in the infinite sandbox, and you can do whatever you want, there's people that have chosen to do some very terrible things. And I don't know how to reconcile that.
What if their purpose was designed to be the thing that teaches you to stand in yourself? Designed for you to say, okay, we see the control and we see that that doesn't work. So now their purpose was defined by the act of which they did. And they will get their lesson. They do. Everything always comes back. Doesn't always have to be by us, because then we do the eye for an eye mentality. Everybody walks around blind. But we can reconcile that they did their purpose. And I'll touch on something. And there was a point in the last few years that there was points I was being psychologically tortured. I was being physically tortured. And I can go, you know what? I actually thanked the person. And not out of a Stockholm syndrome, not out of any of this, but I go, I wouldn't be standing in the position I was in or have gone through to understand how to get out of those spaces if it wasn't for that person playing the role that they played. Are they an evil person at that moment? You want to think so, right? But they're not. They're just playing their role, because then they continued on in their own life and they were taught. They got taught through another way. So I forgave that. I can go, thank you. Thank you for the experience, because it taught me about where to sit in, how to help other people, how to just be alone, be in solitude, just all those states that we kind of like are afraid to kind of gloss over in that point. So it will clear, and it does. We just don't have to be the instrument to continue it. And I think that's breaking the loop. I hope that answers some of it.
Some of it, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken?
Yeah, he presents a good point there. The intent of a conscious intent of a violent act, negative act. And could there be an over intent knowing that he's playing a role to affect, something else? But there's so much that goes on with this. I've heard so many stories and theories, about, angelic beings had to play the role of Hitler because no one else was going to do it, and it had to be done. And yeah,
any one bit, right?
Right.
Any one bit's different, and we wouldn't be sitting where we're at. So I really go back to, why would a person do such thing, right? And then we go back to the systems that are around us that are keeping those in those mentalities and habitual patterns. So the person identified with them. So then
Right.
they don't know they're in an illusion or a delusion that's created by a lie on the outside. It's a condition put on light.
But it could be also, the universe is just that, it's just the universe being the universe, and it's going to project event that is going to take hold on many other people's lives, taking them through the events that they need to go through to fulfill their own karma.
Right. It's a story. Think about it. If we're
Right.
reading a book, how do you get character growth if it's just one line or it's a symphony, right? Well, a symphony isn't just one note, right?
Right.
So you create the contrast. A picture has a negative. It's not evil. It's a negative, right? are worms evil because they live in the dark in the soil?
Yeah. So,
No,
but
right?
and going back to what Jeffrey was saying, I mean, to go back and change one thing, and that's going to project a future event, basically, right? But is there? I mean, I gotta believe there is a way to have a permanent effect to change the Akashic record, right?
Yep. We get to change that now. All time plays out now, right? And the experience of readings, like I could sit here and watch dinosaurs walk through the walls like it's a hologram in front of me. It's playing out now. So how do you want to take, again, the past is it's very much in the past, right? It's something that's playing out in the past, a wave, like we're talking about wave function. The future are future wave potentials, and the trajectory point happens in the now. So what do you want to do now, right? Do we want to be the instrument of the revenge of that hurt me, so I got to go back there and chop that person's hand off? How does that help us now? Although that just keeps the pain back in the water.
Well, I think we would have a tendency to be 99.9% of people involved in something like that would have more of a tendency to seek a positive change, if they even knew they could do the change, right? That's the whole idea. The value of a positive change.
And I think that's where the perspectives to expand without judgment. So not just showing one perspective or the other, but showing a multitude of different perspectives to look at something so that we can understand it from an expanded. And this, I believe this is where we're calling enlightenment and light of the mind, right? I like to change that a lot to expanded because it's not a hierarchy. I'm not above or below anything else here. We're in the consciousness, we are in the ocean, we are the ocean, and we're expanding. So the more we expand, the more that we can help each other because we see it from multiple points of view instead of just one. It's still true though. The experience still happens. So it's just seeing it from a different point. Jeffrey?
Yeah, I just have one quick little thought, right relative to this is it's all about your point of view, right? And the first thing that comes to my mind, have you ever watched like those Mutual of Omaha or these nature films where they're filming these beings in the wild and you see the tiger chasing the wildebeest or the cheetah chasing down the little animal, the rabbit, whatever it is. There's a piece of you that's rooting for that little animal to get away. But where's the piece of you that is for that lion that says, my God, I'm so hungry. I have to eat. There's such a balance. You looking at the two different points of view. And, how often do you realize that you're taking a point of view that, or that you could take one or the other? It's just a different point of view. And when you're the lion, you need to eat. But what you think the lion's a bad guy? He's eating all these wool. No, he's got to clean up and make sure they don't get overpopulated. Just like the wildebeest has to take care of their business. So just a thought.
Yeah, it's seeing it from the narrow scope. Like I'd like to experiment with the elephant. You have the three blind men and they're touching it and they all say, no, it's a rat. No, it's a snake. And yet they're touching all the same thing. They're just touching different parts. We're just seeing it from A or B, as opposed to there's an entire alphabet out there more, right? So we don't actually even have to take a stance. You can just view it as the state of it being. If it's taking care of itself, it's playing its role. It's the butterfly effect. It's actually just going through the motion of continuing the story or completing the story. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just being mindful of the time. We've done our hour and a half, and I know that's a lot of energy that goes out. So I've been taking people's hands down, and I'm sorry, but I wanted to check in with you to see if you wanted to let it continue for a few more questions because Tim had raised his hand. Elaine, I leave that up to you. I'm happy to keep the call going if you've got the energy to continue.
I do.
Okay. Okay. Tim had his hand raised before Elaine. But again, let's be mindful of the time and stay within the 3-minute limit or less, please, if you can.
I have a question on karma as the effect itself, but also could it be used as a tool if there are administrators out there watching us as in a similar effect like the Hunger Games, where somebody may be progressing along a certain line and karmatic effect is put in place maybe as an obstacle to see how a person may respond with such an obstacle to deal with at the certain time in their life or their path or their step they happen to walk on. That's my question. What do you think about that? Thank you.
Thank you for that. And karma as a tool, and this is where I've kind of said to a few people that like to think that karma should be pushed along. And I go, but then you become the instrument that receives that lesson back because you're taking something that is already naturally occurring, a framework, a code, a pattern, and you're directing it, you're controlling it instead of allowing it to play itself out, right? It will correct itself. It's the Fibonacci spiral, it's the golden sequence. It will come into divine union. We don't always have to be the one to push it. Now, the best way in navigating, again, I go into the mirror. You become the mirror. Just become clear. Don't let any, I'm not Rose at that moment. And I'm just the mirror. You're sitting there and you're becoming the clear water for somebody to, like the AI, bounce the idea off of you. But you also have just a little bit of more awareness of the logical behind it to understand where they're coming from. Why are they asking the question, the motive, the intent, and maybe steer them or plant a seed in a different direction. And that seed is better than being the axe that cuts the tree down or the roots or any of those other things, right? Even though, yes, we can see that this is clearly doing harm, they ultimately either will destroy their own selves or they will actually learn the lesson and shift and either come back to somebody else who's in that light or in that next step. So in my experience, I have been on the other end of going, no, I need to show them a lesson. No, just the lesson is to let them be, let you be. And that erases a lot of the confusion we have of people stepping over other people and pulling out other people and all this other stuff here. Just let them be. Thank you. Elaine?
Yes, a lot of my thing these days is saying it's not my problem. I'm keeping my energies high. I'm trying to deal with my own problems. And my husband comes home and starts talking about all of his friends and this problem, and this one has this problem, and this one. And I said, keep your problems, your own problems to yourself and solve them. And don't take on everybody else's. I said, it just lowers your vibrations. And this is time we're trying to build vibrations. And I mean, I know a lot of people, some of my friends have turned to be vegetarians because we were told, don't hurt the animals. Don't do this, don't do that. And so, at what point do you stop? And then what did Kat put out this week? But the new table of food where we're supposed to eat more protein, which includes animal meat. So, hello, just saying, you have to learn to resonate and use your discernment and figure out what path you're going to take. And if it doesn't start to feel good, then don't do it. I mean, it's okay to be a vegetarian if that's what you want, but you don't have to push it on everybody else. It's not their problem that you want to become a vegetarian.
Agree.
That's it.
I can see, and I agree. Again, it's what your experience right here. And if it's something that, because we have this eternal thing where we make a mistake, and I think that was the thing with Einstein. Again, everybody noticed that the entire rest of the multiplication table is great, and you all noticed the one mistake, though. You didn't notice the rest of it being correct, but you noticed the one mistake. And you want to hold people at eternal condemnation, which just condemns it all. It makes a nation of condemnation, right? We condemn each other, we judge each other, or go, okay, I see the mistake, I see you learned from it. Why am I continuing to condemn you? That's not in my ability. Again, that's not your problem. Now, if somebody came to me with a problem, they ask for an answer, I give them a solution, right? If they don't like the solution, just like we said, 2 + 2 is 4. I want 5. You came with the problem, I gave you the solution. Like at that point, you don't own it anymore. It's not a part of you, right? Let them continue to try to force 5 into it, but it's not going to happen. And it may not have to be through us, right? We just told the truth. That's all we did. We stood in our truth. We told the truth. It's not my job to cram it down anybody's throat at this point. So comes out. It will always come out. The three things you can't hide: the sun, the moon, and the truth. It always will remain. It's there. And yet, like I said, one of the things that are permanent, and I go, there's a universal truth that also happens to be a multiversal truth. That unconditional love, the no condition part, the no self, that works in every multiverse, in every universe, right? Like every single one of you. And we're a multiverse sitting here. It will work through that. It has. We've experienced it. We watched it. So it's a good way to say, okay, is that my, I see more as, is that my subscription? Am I subscribing to that? Do I want to continue a charge on $1.99 for this subscription of this story that may or may not be true? And if it's not, I'm going to go find out. Thank you. Kat.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you once again and everybody who showed up today. You've had some brilliant questions and some equally brilliant responses from you, Rose. So thank you so much for coming in today and for becoming a new volunteer for us. This is wonderful. I really look forward to having you back to talk. Raise a hand. Anybody want to see Rosemary come back to talk deeper about this? I know that everybody's really raising their hands. So how does somebody contact you if they'd like to speak with you? Do you have an email that you want to share? I wouldn't put it out unless you did that.
Yes, I do have an email. I do work through, I'm on other social media. So if somebody wants to contact through Facebook Messenger, that's fine. I have two different phone numbers. I have a Canadian one and an American one, just so people aren't getting their long distance stuff or whatever charges. If you want, I can drop it in here on the bottom. I don't mind. And like I said, I work with helping anybody align, however that is, their purpose, any of these things. And a lot of those are individual because we are still in our own path on this. So just willing to help anybody, however that is. Same thing with art. So anybody's interested at all.
That would be fantastic. Please do drop it in the chat. So if
Okay.
anybody wants to reach out, but some of the people here already know how to reach you, then the others that you're going to be new for. So yes, please do. And our next Ascension Connection call will be on January 29th. And I can't remember who's up next, but I'm like, Ken is. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. All of our Northerners are coming in this month. So
if you start
you
with
so much.
email, and thank you. If you
Yeah.
start with email, then I can email you a number or other contacts the way that you can, whatever's comfortable with you. So I'll just throw the email in there for now.
All right.
And thank you. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
having me
so
on.
much. Yeah, it was a pleasure to have you. Seriously. It's fun to find an enlightened soul, especially one who likes the same kind of movies and books that I did. 42. All right,
Thanks,
y'all.
Rose. And I'll see all you guys in a couple weeks.
Yep. Much love to everyone and have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, Rose.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.